I proposed. She said yes, but she kept delaying the wedding. So I did some digging and found out she was still married to someone else. She never told me. Now I have to decide. Do I forgive her or walk away for good? This probably isn't the kind of post you expect from a guy who once swore he'd never get married. But life has a funny way of changing your mind, especially when you meet someone who makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. I'm Mason, 34. I work construction management. Mostly big commercial projects, early mornings, long hours, lots of steel and coffee. I'm not the romantic type. I've always been the guy who rolls his eyes at rom-coms, avoids deep conversations, and buys birthday gifts last minute. Relationships? Sure, I've had a few, but nothing that ever made me think forever. Until Clara. We met during a city housing inspection. She was shadowing a building compliance officer, apparently considering a career change. Our first conversation was about insulation codes, and somehow it turned into coffee, then dinner, and then her never really leaving my apartment. She was different. No drama, no guessing games. Smart, straightforward, always asking questions that made me think harder about who I was. 18 months in, I surprised myself by buying a ring. She didn't pressure me. Hell, she once said she wasn't even sure marriage mattered. But I knew I wanted her around. For good. She cried, said yes, and we set a date 9 months out. But then, things started slipping. The venue she loved suddenly wasn't the vibe anymore. The guest list stressed her out. She didn't like the dress anymore. And then, 3 months before the wedding, she said she needed time to get her head right. I chalked it up to cold feet. It happens. Planning a wedding is a circus. I gave her space, canceled a few deposits, told her we could push the date. She thanked me, said she loved me, said I was the only one who ever made her feel safe. But over time, I noticed she stopped talking about the wedding at all. Her phone was always face down. She traveled to visit family, but never invited me. And once, when I picked her up from the airport, she looked tense. Office like she'd come back from something more than just a weekend away. Then I saw it. An email notification flashed on her laptop while she was in the shower. The subject line said, "Final court reminder, Johnson marriage review hearing." It was addressed to her, Clara Johnson. But that's not her last name. At least, not the one she gave me. I sat on our bed that night, staring at the files on her laptop. How could she, the woman who claimed she was ending her internship for us, hiding this? My heart pounded. I opened the email. Court summons. Spoiler. She is legally married. I typed, Clara Johnson divorce case, and hit enter. Dozens of public records opened. Wedding licenses, joint assets, respondent forms. I had married a stranger. I didn't cry. My body betrayed me, hands shaking, throat tight. But I didn't sob. Instead, my mind raced through every moment since we got engaged. The delays, the odd calls, the weekend-long family visits, the change of plans, last-minute heat about dinner. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The following day, I pretended nothing had happened. I hugged her goodbye at the door, kissed her cheek. She said, "Good luck at work, honey," and walked away. My stomach lurched. I watched her leave and counted seconds until she was gone. Only then did I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Work was a blur. My colleagues noticed, but asked nothing. I replayed every conversation with her in my head, searching for clues. Was that awkward pause when she talked about visiting Uncle Mark actually a lie? Were those late-night messages really just boys checking in, or someone else? That night, I checked her shared calendar. Nothing. No family time. But when I looked at her phone background, I noticed it didn't match the home screen she showed me 2 weeks ago. It wasn't her cousin's wedding. It was some stranger's wedding photo. When she came home, I greeted her with a forced smile. "Hey, how was everything?" I said, voice low. She looked at me funny, head tilted, as if seeing me for the first time since I discovered the truth. But I played normal. I asked about dinner. She shrugged. "Just ordering in." Fine. Dinner was quiet. Food tasted bland. I felt like an actor playing out this life that wasn't mine. That night, I drafted a message. We need to talk. Tonight. At home. I hit send and held my phone until she replied, okay. And that was it. The scene was set. That evening, I waited for her on the couch, heart pounding with dread. The second she walked through the door, I saw it. The hesitation in her step, the way her eyes flicked down when I greeted her. I held up my phone. The email was back on the lock screen, taunting me. We need to talk, I said quietly. She froze, face losing color. She dropped her bag and nodded, then walked to the kitchen. I followed. I sat opposite her at the kitchen table, the hum of the refrigerator louder than any words. My voice was steady, but cold. Explain. She sank into the chair, avoiding my eyes. I wanted to tell you. I was going to. But with the wedding planning, everything got chaotic. Chaotic? I echoed. You're legally still married, Clara. To someone else. She exhaled, finally meeting my gaze. It was short, years ago. A mistake. I filed for divorce months ago. Months ago? I scoffed. Then why didn't you tell me? You knew this would come up in background checks. She swallowed hard. I was scared. I thought if you knew, you'd back out. That you'd hate me. So you lied, repeatedly. You canceled plans, said family issues, changed venues. It was all a cover? My throat tightened. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know how it looks. It wasn't meant to be like this. Then why stay? My voice cracked. Why drag me this far? I love you. I didn't want to lose you. Her voice was raw. I thought divorce would be final before you noticed. My chest tightened. Love didn't feel like deception. I stood, pacing. This is more than a detail. It's our foundation. Is anything real? She placed her hand over mine. Everything else is. My love, my memories, our life. But I understand if you can't. I pulled my hand back. I need proof. Show me the divorce filing. She nodded, trembling. We sat in silence as she searched for the PDF. Minutes felt like hours. When the document appeared, stamp, judge's signature, my heart sank again. Still waiting. She swallowed. It will finalize next month. I wanted it done before the wedding. I closed my eyes. Pain and betrayal warred in me. You should have told me. Anytime. You destroyed trust. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to say. Nothing felt big enough. Finally, I whispered, I need the rest of this week alone. Without looking, she left. I heard the front door click behind her. I sat there, head in my hands, the silence louder than any scream. A few days later, I found myself sitting across from Clara at our favorite coffee shop, the one we used to treat as our little sanctuary after work. The moment she saw me, her face crumpled. She reached for my hand before I could say a word. I know the paperwork's real, I said. Quiet, but firm. I'm not here to argue facts. I need to know why. Why did you let me propose? Why did you build this life with me knowing your marriage wasn't finalized? Her eyes filled with tears. Because it felt like the divorce was just paperwork. I felt free in every way except the legal one. And I needed time to figure how to tell you without losing you. So you hid from me, I murmured. Day after day, lie after lie. Am I a charity case for your healing? She flinched. No, you were never that. You were hope. You were my future. I thought I could fix the divorce quietly, and by the time it was done, we just walked down the aisle. I closed my eyes, hearing my own heartbeat. But you kept building. Booking vendors, cake tastings, talking about ring settings. All while, legally someone else's wife. She swallowed. I thought I was ready emotionally. Just not legally. But I was wrong. I understand that now. She took a tissue and wiped my hand. I've moved the final hearing forward. It's in 2 weeks. I swear after that, no delays. If you still want me, I'll be yours. I felt the weight in her words. I could see the fear in her eyes, the clarity in her voice. And if I say no? Tears gathered as she said, then I will step away. I will respect your choice. But know this. I loved you with everything I had. We sat in silence, the gentle cafe buzz around us feeling distant. Outside, sunlight fell in patterns on the table. Hope and uncertainty intertwined in that moment. I realized something. This wasn't just about a wedding. It was about trust and timing, about building a future that stands on firm ground. I squeezed her hand. 2 weeks. After that, we'll decide. For real. The 2 weeks were both the longest and shortest of my life. Every morning my phone buzzed with updates from Clara. Court scheduled for 10 a.m., or just submitted the forms. I responded with brief, thanks. Honesty had returned, but trust was still fragile. I spent that time buried in my routines, work, Max, beers with friends. But my mind was always floating back to what she said in the cafe. If you still want me. Those words haunted me. I wanted her. But could I walk down the aisle knowing the legal part was only minutes away? The nights were the worst. Alone in our apartment, I flipped through old photos of us, hiking muddy trails, laughing at backyard barbecues, dancing poorly in the living room. I touched the ring on my finger in the mirror. It glinted with promise and regret. Friends tried to coax me out. One evening, Tom took me bowling. My throw smashed the pins, but it felt hollow. Are you excited? He asked between frames. I shrugged. I don't know what I feel. A week before court, I sat in the boardroom at work, waiting for feedback. My phone buzzed. Divorce finalized. Court sent certificate. I love you. My heart stopped mid-beat. She sent a photo of the signed decree. No words, just the image. I stared at that photo for minutes. Could I feel relief? Could I feel heartbreak? I felt both, hope tangled with fear. That night, I emailed our officiant to book the new date. Told him, let's pick a Saturday in September. Then I called Clara. We talked until dawn. Not about ceremony details, but about trust, transparency, and what scares us. We whispered our fears into silence. Court day came. I watched her walk out of the courthouse, eyes red but proud. She waved. I approached, took her hand. No words, just presence. We didn't jump into arms. We just touched. I leaned my forehead against hers. We cried. Together. We started tentatively, not diving into grand plans, but rebuilding. On that courthouse step, we chose to try again. My life didn't fix itself overnight. But I realized healing isn't about forgetting mistakes. It's about choosing to move forward anyway. It's been 3 months since that courthouse moment. Life isn't perfect, but we're building something real. We moved into a new apartment. No wedding photos yet, but walls waiting for memories. Max, our loyal golden retriever, acts like he senses the change. He sleeps at our feet more than ever. Clara and I established rules. Total transparency, no secrets, even the small stuff. We've been journaling feelings, setting weekly check-ins, and seeing a counselor when our past mistakes catch up. We've learned to talk about fear instead of hiding it. Some Sundays we brunch in the sun. Other days we argue, because the hurt doesn't just vanish. We've Googled each other's recent activities, shared passwords, not to control, but to rebuild trust. It sucked at first. It felt invasive. But now, it feels like a bridge we're walking back together. Last weekend, I took her back to the coffee shop where we had that intense conversation. She looked into my eyes, held my hand and said, I'm ready. No schedule, no timeline, just intent. We haven't set a wedding date yet. But I think the ceremony will be simple, honest, and full of understanding. Maybe this fall, maybe later, maybe never. But that's not the point. The point is what we've built in these months. Honesty, effort, presence. I won't lie. Some days still feel heavy. I still glance at that ring sometimes and think, can I really? But I choose them. I choose us. I choose hope. Now I need your take. Reddit, YouTube, everyone listening. Would you give someone one more chance after something like this? Can trust really be rebuilt after betrayal? And what would you need to truly forgive and move forward?